Welcome to R&R Live and Life. Our adventure to the tip of Cape York has come to an end, and it is now time to head home. If you have followed us on our travels, you will know that it is never just a straightforward trip, but lots of side trips to check out points of interest that are not on the main highway or tourist-driven places, though there may be a few of those. So our journey home has lots of side trips, having a look at places we have never been to and interesting points of interest along the way, until we get to familiar territory closer to home. As I sit and contemplate another episode, I reflect on the fact that I am not a storyteller and have never been, but rely on facts about the places we visit, as both Rick and I find the history or information about a place more interesting than conversation for conversation's sake, and secondly, I keep reminding myself that this is a journal of our travels. As Rick rarely forgets where we have been, I, on the other hand, need lots of pictures as reminders of where we have travelled. So here we are leaving Cairns and making our way south along the Bruce Highway through Gordonvale to Innisfail, just over 80 kilometres away. The clouds were just hanging on the tops of ranges like cloaks, keeping their shoulders warm. They really were interesting how they hung on the tops of the ranges. We could also see the steam from the Mulgrave sugar mill near Gordonvale as we made our way along the highway. The mill, owned by MSF Sugar, commenced operations in 1896 and is an integrated sugarcane grower, sugar miller, marketer and exporter of raw sugar. About 50 kilometres south of Cairns we crossed the Mulgrave River, a picturesque 70-kilometre long waterway originating in the Belladin Kerr Range, flowing through lush mountainous rainforest and past the town of Gordonvale before meeting the Coral Sea. The incredibly diverse ecosystems of the rainforest kept me enthralled for some of the way this morning. The closed tree canopy and high moisture levels make for very lush greenery. Here between Cairns and Innisfail, the extreme rainfall the area receives creates a dense ancient jungle featuring ancient broadleaf evergreen forest and palm leaf vine forest, while scattered throughout are towering feathered palms, cascading waterfalls and wildlife that can only really be described as pristine. The volcanic soils and consistent moisture creates vibrant layers filled with ferns, epiphytes and massive palms, unique to the region. Our first side trip today was into the little town of Barbinda and on to the Boulders, about 7 kilometres west of Barbinda. Barbinda is also known as the Umbrella Town because of the rainfall it receives each year. The railway station is a classic example of early Queensland railway architecture. Operations to build a sugar mill commenced in 1914 and operated until 2011, with support services expanding around it. The sugar industry was the primary source of economic stability and growth in the local area and was described as being a foundation industry for local economics. With the closure of the sugar mill, banana production replaced some of the economic activity of the town. On the way out to the Boulders we passed the sculpture of Priscilla, a life-size glittering aluminium horse in the front garden of a Barbinda resident, an amazing sculpture. The Barbinda Boulders, or Barbinda, is famous for its massive granite boulders and crystal clear waters fed by Mount Bartlefree. The parkland is nestled in the rainforest, and we had planned to do a short walk, but were attacked by march flies, so our visit was cut short. Recent flooding over the previous couple of days had washed massive trees down into Barbinda Creek. The reserve that encompasses a section of Barbinda Creek lies in the foothills between Queensland's highest and second highest mountain peaks, Mount Bartlefree and Mount Belladin Kerr respectively. This high coastal mountain range, the tropical location and the moist southeasterly trade winds are responsible for making the coastal strip between Tully and Cape Tribulation the wettest area in all of Australia, and as a result a constant supply of cold mountain water flows through all the creeks of the reserve. We were travelling within the local government area of the Cassowary Coast that lies south of Cairns, centred on the towns of Innisfail, Mission Beach, Cardwell and Tully. The region is known for its lush rainforests, beautiful beaches and scenic mountains. From the Boulders it was back through Barbinda and back on the Bruce Highway, 30 kilometres to Innisfail. I began to wonder just how many shades of green there are, a countless number. From rainforests to sugar cane and banana plantations, not to mention the hills covered in grasses, and I think we had seen hundreds of shades, differing in hue, chroma and tone, and a variation of some. The area has such lush green foliage. Innisfail, originally called Geraldton until 1910, is the largest township in the Cassowary Coast region, known for its sugar and banana industries, as well as being one of Australia's wettest towns. Situated at the junction of the Johnson and South Johnson rivers, approximately 5 kilometres from the coast, it is located near large tracts of old-growth tropical rainforest, surrounded by vast areas of extensive farmlands. In 1918, most of the town was destroyed by a cyclone and had to be completely rebuilt, making Innisfail the Art Deco capital of Australia. From Innisfail, we drove a few kilometres out to Coquette Point, along the edge of Moresby Range National Park. From the high point of Coquette Point, we could see Gladys Inlet, a tidal estuary, back to Innisfail across the Johnson River, out to the coast and the surrounding sugarcane and banana farms. I was on the lookout for a cassowary. Moresby Range National Park is a lush, nearly 9 square kilometre reserve located on the Cassowary Coast near Coquette Point that features ancient lowland rainforest, rich bird life and sweeping views of the Johnson River, and it was said that here at Coquette Point was a good place to spot cassowaries. I did get to see a wallaby, a white heron and some cattle. Rick had researched places where they were usually spotted and had made detours to see if we could find any. With their striking blue and purple head and neck, large chest, red wattles and glossy black plumage, these colourful birds are one of the most easily recognised icons of the rainforest. At around 2 metres in height and weighing up to 80 kilograms, these flightless birds are known as the rainforest gardeners. But, yet again, I was not to see one. From Coquette Point we made our way back through Innisfail and on to Marillion and then out to Eddy Bay, said to be often frequented by the famous southern cassowary that patrol the area most days. The final kilometre of the route was a scenic drive climbing 100 metres over the Moresby Range before descending into the picturesque bay. We found a shady spot to park and then went to have a look at the beach. No cassowaries. The soft, sandy white beach is backed by a narrow tree-shaped reserve, then steep forested slopes rising up to 250 metres behind the beach. It was then back to Marillion, a quiet sugarcane town located 10 kilometres south of Innisfail. Named in 1872 by Captain James Moresby, the town originally grew around the Marillion sugar mill. While the mill was permanently destroyed by Cyclone Larry in 2006, the area retains a strong, close-knit agricultural identity. Just after Marillion, we left the Bruce Highway and continued along the Bogan Road and onto the South Johnson Road through South Johnson to join the Innisfail Japoon Road through Germantown to Paronella Park. Along the way we passed a hop farm, and I wondered how the industry was economically here in the region, as not only does growing hops require full sun, rich well-drained soil, and a sturdy vertical support system, it needs a cold winter for the rootstocks to return to dormancy before regrowing in the spring. We crossed the South Johnson River, an 88-kilometre waterway that joins the North Johnson River to form the Johnson River near Innisfail. The South Johnson flows through steep tablelands and agricultural floodplains and past the town of South Johnson, originally named Basilisk after the river, and at the centre of a major sugar-producing district. The combined catchment area of the Johnson River system covers over 1,600 square kilometres. Because the headwaters originate in areas with extreme rainfall, the lower reaches around Innisfail are highly susceptible to rapid river rises and severe flooding. We followed Cane Cutter's Way, that follows the Old Bruce Highway for a few kilometres through thriving rural communities, vast sugarcane fields and fruit orchards, and into historic towns. Our next stop for the day was at Paronella Park, located on Meena Creek. I remember coming here in the late 1970s on a school excursion and remember it very differently than how I saw it today. Though 50 years is a long time for nature to have its way, only to survive a tumultuous history of natural disasters, abandonment and fires to become an amazing place to visit. Everyone has a dream, but not everyone's dreams are fulfilled. Having arrived in Australia in 1913 as a cane cutter, and after spending over a decade buying, developing and selling sugarcane farms, Jose Paronella accumulated enough wealth to fulfill his ultimate vision to build a Spanish-style castle in the Australian rainforest. In 1929 he purchased the land beside the Meena Creek Falls, an ideal setting for his architectural masterpiece, where he transformed 5 hectares of virgin tropical scrubland into an amazing pleasure garden featuring a castle, ballroom, theatre and Queensland's first privately owned hydroelectric plant. Jose first built a small stone house for his family, then a grand staircase to facilitate the carrying of the river sand to make the concrete to build the castle itself. Apart from the house, which is made of stone, all of the structures are constructed of poured reinforced concrete, with reinforcing being old railway tracks. The concrete was covered with a plaster made from clay and cement, which they put on by hand, leaving behind the prints of their fingers as a reminder of the work they had done. There are multiple tiers to the park that opened to the public in 1935. At the same level as the waterfall, a pavilion equipped with a movie theatre, an enormous mirror ball and a balcony where bands played music that doubled as both a movie theatre and ballroom that showed movies every Saturday night. Canvas chairs were removed and the hall became a venue for dances and parties. A unique feature was the mirrored reflector, a great ball covered with 1,270 tiny mirrors suspended from the ceiling. During the mid-1960s, the theatre ceased to be, and the hall became devoted to functions. A fire in 1979 destroyed the ballroom and cinema, leaving it in ruins and leading to the park's abandonment for nearly 15 years. Above the refreshment rooms was a projection room, and up another flight of stairs was the Paronella Museum. This housed collections of coins, pistols, dolls, samples of North Queensland timber and other items of interest. Originally, food service was from the lower refreshment rooms downstairs. Jose built a grand outdoor staircase leading down to the level of the lagoon below the waterfall. Beside the lagoon he built an outdoor dining area with stone tables, benches and a balustrade. Near these, at the foot of the staircase, he located refreshment and changing rooms with a fountain built nearby. 2 tennis courts are situated behind the refreshment rooms, with a children's playground and the meadows situated near the creek. Wooded walkways lead further into the park beneath an amazing range of 7,500 tropical plants and trees, now a lush rainforest. Curie Avenue takes you to Teresa Falls, where a tunnel had been excavated through a small hill, where stonework balconies provide an entrance to the spring-fed falls, named for his daughter. The creek is lined with rocks and traversed by small bridges. Some parts have cascades built out of rocks, so the sound of water is always around. In 1933, Jose commissioned a hydroelectric generating plant, the first private hydroelectric system installed in Queensland. Inspired by hydroelectricity in Europe, Jose recognised the potential of Meena Creek Falls, and with no formal training, he sought guidance from South Johnson Mill engineers, who helped develop the system, eventually supplying lighting, pumps, refrigeration and cinema power to the park. The concrete slab tables forming the lower tea gardens and the swimming pool both proved extremely popular in their day. The avenues and paths were well laid out, with the familiar shaped planters, which were still to be seen wherever we went throughout the park. In 1946, Paronella Park received its first cyclone damage, when logs washed down the waterfall into the refreshment rooms, all but destroying them, along with extensively damaging the hydroelectricity system, the theatre and foyer. Undaunted, the family began the task of rebuilding. The refreshment rooms downstairs were beyond repair, so this service was moved upstairs, and only structure of the building recreated. In addition, Jose built the fountain. The castle was repaired, the gardens replanted, and the park was alive again. Sadly, in 1946 Jose died of cancer, leaving Margarita, daughter Teresa and son Joe to carry on. Renovations and maintenance meant there was always plenty of work, and the floods in 1967, 72 and 74 further added to the load. After Margarita and son Joe's deaths, Joe's wife and their two sons continued the hard-working tradition and kept the dreams alive. The park was sold out of the family in 1977, and sadly in 1979 a fire swept through the castle, gutting the cinema ballroom, leaving only a shell. A sad series of events followed in the wake of the park's abandonment, when in 1986 the park was struck by Cyclone Winifred, followed by a flood in January 1994, Cyclone Larry in March 2006 and Cyclone Yahtzee in January 2011. All further setbacks and challenges for Paronella Park. Today, the current owners-operators who purchased the park in 1993 have put in place a plan to put the park back on the map. Paronella Park's life as a pleasure garden continues as Jose intended, with visitors continuing to make use of this unique location. I will leave you here for this episode enjoying Paronella Park. I hope you have enjoyed it. Give us a thumbs up if you have. See you next episode as we visit Mission Beach, Tully and Ingham. Safe journeys. Live life to the full. Rick and Rosemary. R&R, Live and Life.